Welcome back to Greatest Scene Ever. This is our Smorgasbord edition. I'm Professor Greg Smith, along here with my co-host, Professor Carlos Brannon, and joined by the original co-host of Greatest Scene Ever, Dr. Paul Ohlers. Dr. Ohlers.
Yes.
We asked you to come up with 3 choices for films, but no,
you
couldn't do 3. So he came to us with 9.
9. Well, this is actually not even choices for movies, so I'm further cheating. I'm stretching.
So we discussed the first 3. We had Star Wars,
were
Raiders,
childhood movies. And
childhood movies.
Now I wanted to
Raiders,
talk about
Star Wars, and
Monty Python and the Holy
Monty
Grail.
Python and the Holy Grail.
And so
now for the next 3, you wanted to.
So I wanted to talk about directors.
Please do.
And so for me, there are sort of 3 directors who I consider if they would be my desert island directors to have. And the first one would be Hitchcock.
Okay.
Obviously, because Hitchcock had a long span of successful movies.
Probably the director who would do the worst on a desert island, if I had to say. Given his girth and
Well, he could survive for a long time, though.
Yeah, I suppose.
Right?
Yeah, but
like live off the surplus.
Kind of a know-it-all. You'd be doing other work. You'd be sitting there, and so I don't know that I'd have him on the island, but might be fun.
Not pleasant to sort of visit with, but his
movies are terribly.
His movies are great. So.
His movies are great.
So for me, there's a lot of really good movies for him, whether it's Rear Window or Psycho, or North by Northwest. There's sort of there's a lot of different movies you could fit into that, and say these are one of the 3 desert island movies, and I think they're all valid choices.
So that's your first director. Favorite Hitchcock movie?
Actually, the first 2 he mentioned are my ties, Psycho and Rear Window.
Great films.
It's really hard to choose between the 2 for me.
Great films.
Yeah.
Favorite Hitchcock movie?
I'd say Rear Window probably, but
good. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Second director is Stanley Kubrick for me,
Cool.
which ironically, the first 2 directors I'm talking about didn't win Academy Awards.
And are both dead.
They're about dead, that's true. But for me, there's a lot of really great Kubrick movies where it's 2001 or The Shining or Full Metal Jacket. The first part of Full Metal Jacket to me is what makes that movie great, as opposed to the.
I would agree with that. Would you agree with that? If you think
first
about Full Metal Jacket, it's really 2 movies.
Which is true.
There's the whole drill sergeant thing in the very beginning, which is just very different than the back part.
It is very
it's
different.
All about the sniper.
It's also, I guess, that's the part of the movie people go to. Do you know what I mean? It's the one that really resonates. Part of it, I think, is, you were mentioning earlier, quotable moments.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think quotable moments really go into people's brains, and there's something about the crafting of language and delivery of lines that really, there's something, it grabs onto you. Yeah. And I think that the part of the film you're referring to really, really lends towards that.
It does.
Well, I think the impressive part of that was he found R. Lee Ermey, who was a drill sergeant, and that was all largely improvised.
Didn't he bring him on as an advisor?
He brought him on as an advisor, and he was so impressed.
And he was so impressive that they said, "Oh well, I don't want you to train the actor. I want you to be the actor."
Yeah, and it was all improvised.
Yeah, and
for the most part.
And it started an entire career for him.
Yeah,
because he was really just a sort of an advisor on films up to that point, but. Yeah. He started a whole career, and he has played himself over and over and over again, to great acclaim. And he's no one better.
Yeah,
and the final scene of the first half in the bathroom between the 2 of them, where not Psycho. Matthew Modine's played, his character's name is Joker.
Joker, and then Private Pile.
Private Pile, that's right, Private Pile. Private Pile, what are you doing with that weapon? Put that weapon on the deck! The screen. Just the wonderful drill sergeant stuff and the craziness of Private Pile and Matthew Modine playing us, who are the rational voice in the room, who's scared to death and doesn't know what's going to happen. It's just a wonderful film. But a great choice, second choice for director.
Before your next director, rapid fire. Favorite Kubrick?
2001.
You?
2001 probably, or The Shining is another great movie.
That's great.
Yeah, all good. You know what I love about both your choices? It's impossible to have a favorite. But
Well,
if I have to, off the top of my head, I'd say 2001.
If I could only keep one with me, it'd be Dr. Strangelove.
Oh, another great choice.
That's very true. And we've talked about that on this program. I love that film. But if I had to choose one, I would say 2001. For a variety of reasons. That's for another show. I want to hear your third choice.
Third director has got to be Spielberg.
Okay, great.
And again, because Spielberg is sort of, the other 2 are sort of an older generation. You can sort of say they kind of are each successive generations. Yeah. And for me, Spielberg is a really interesting director because he had this period of success very early, and then he sort of, got married and had a family, and that kind of became his focus, and sort of he had this dip in his movies, and then rose again to sort of prominence with the later movies, with Schindler's List and Minority Report and Saving Private Ryan and those kind of movies. But there was that early, success with Jaws and Close Encounters and Raiders of the Lost Ark and those kind of movies. So there's almost two groups of Spielberg movies, like the young, up-and-coming director of Spielberg, and then sort of the more mature, Spielberg, where he sort of figured it out after he kind of lost, I don't want to say he didn't lose his inspiration, but, sort of the fire that he had as a young director kind of went away.
I think he was figuring it out during those years. I mean, I've talked with you about this before. I think that sort of middle period where he was trying to figure out who he was and where he wanted to go. And it's, we're not psychiatrists, but we play one on TV as film critics and stuff. But that would be my take on it, just purely in terms of, as someone who is a connoisseur of films or loves films, a consumer more than a connoisseur actually. Where I love watching films, and I see really two distinct eras, like you said. I see those two eras. I see Drive, I see the very early Spielberg, and then I see Jaws and Close Encounters and Raiders, and then I was working at Lucasfilm at that time when Temple of Doom was made, and there was a feeling among us that there was something different in that movie, and there was a lot of turmoil in his life. Spielberg's life at that time.
There's even some more recent ones by him that I think kind of missed the bullseye. Like War of the Worlds was not amazing.
I liked it more than you did. We've talked about this, but I
liked
it more than
you can agree the low point maybe is Hook, right?
Oh,
so pretty much. Although wait a minute, hold on. I've got a 26-year-old son who loved.
But
dressed up. I've got pictures probably on my cell phone of him dressed as Captain Hook. Because
there's some good performances in that film, and it appeals to kids.
But I will say it was certainly different than early or later Spielberg.
Well, even bad Spielberg is better than most good directors.
That's true.
Well, that's a good point.
You mentioned two other great directors today, but even Hitchcock made Marnie.
Yeah,
that's true.
Exactly.
That's true, and they're allowed dogs. But isn't it funny that I wouldn't stray too far from that list of three great directors. I'm going to put you on the spot. Three great directors.
Three great directors. Truffaut. I'd probably have to also get on the bandwagon of Kubrick. And it's so hard to pick one. You keep doing this to me.
I know. This is what it's all about. Well, that's
Soderbergh.
If it was easy, everyone would do it. Soderbergh. Great. Perfect. Not Paul Thomas Anderson? I would have taken you for kind of.
Don't get me wrong. I love him, and he's pitch perfect, and he does. It's almost like he does exactly what he wants to do. But I think, in the history of my experience watching films, Soderbergh speaks to me personally a little bit more.
Sure, yeah.
But he's another one who has a little bit of a
uneven sort of oeuvre, as they say. Okay, and I'll cheat. And I'll just simply say Hitchcock. So that's all the time we have for this segment. What, I'm sorry?
No Godard. Nobody said Godard.
Godard's in there. I mean, there's so many different people in there. I mean, I'm not even going to go down that road. I'll stick with Hitchcock times 3. And that's cheating. That's totally cheating. That's all the time we have for this segment of this episode. I want you to stick around and come back for the next segment because I want to hear if I had to force you to choose 3 desert island films.
Okay.
Okay, you got 3 in mind? We'll come back and we'll talk about that in a second. But for now, I'm Greg. This is Kylos and Paul, and this is Greatest Scene Ever.